Hello and welcome to the Bee Formless Flow-Driven CEO podcast. It's a bit of a we've got the Northern Lights on going on behind us, but we've got another fellow Aussie here on the show today, Paul Muller. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you, B. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, you're welcome. And you're not far from me, actually, Tasmania. I don't know, have I? Oh, yeah, I've had a couple of other people from Tasmania. I was going to say you're my first, but
Yeah.
yeah, I love this background. But Tasmania is a beautiful part of the world. If you haven't been there before, we're not here to talk about that because you are quite the global entrepreneur, if you like. And you said you've been in business for over 15 years, which is huge. You're a certified project director. You're also an author, a facilitator, and you're the founder of your company, which is Center for Project Innovation, which CPI. And essentially, you said it is around modern project credentials, is essentially, and I'll let you go into all the detail and the specifics of it. You have moved your global headquarters not from locally in Australia to Washington, and your business is global. And you, when you booked in for the podcast, and I asked you what's one unique insight or lived experience when it comes to life leadership and or business, and I think this is going to pretty much inform our conversation and how your business started. It was the art of getting things done. So tell us about your journey. How did you come into your business? The art of getting things done, project management, all the feels. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, very kind introduction too. Thank you for that.
Hey, you're welcome.
So yeah, project management as a discipline sort of 15 years ago when I first kind of stumbled into it, was very much focused very narrowly in construction and IT. Those were the two sort of major industries. I'd come from like a major event sporting type background to it. And didn't realize I was actually a project manager until I actually was doing a master's degree. There was a unit on project management. And I went, oh, that's what I've kind of been doing
Oh,
the
how
whole time.
funny.
How come I hadn't heard of this
Yeah.
beforehand? Because, yeah, this would have been handy. um, so, got into the teaching and learning space myself, and dialed in pretty quickly on this project management as a real point of difference. And the way I see it now, yeah, project management it's the art of getting things done. We talk about innovation a lot, and obviously that's in our company name. But when we talk about innovation, what we're really talking about is successful change. If we've successfully changed something, we've innovated. And the way we deliver that change is projects.
Yeah.
Um, and a lot of people have amazing, innovative ideas. A lot of people have very simple changes, improvements and stuff that they're making around things. But project management is the perfect complement to good ideas.
Mm.
And whatever space you're in, whether you're, putting on events, building high-rise buildings, running an arts festival, selling a real estate, portfolio. All of these things benefit from project management in a way that general leadership doesn't really do. I used to teach at the university in the MBA program around, leadership and stuff. And there's a theory for every occasion, but having come from industry into that teaching space, I actually found it pretty impractical. And the thing I loved about project management, it's incredibly practical science. You've got a limited amount of time, a limited amount of resources, a very specific thing that you need to do. General leadership theory doesn't perfectly work in those spaces, whereas project management, the art of getting things done, there's a slightly more cruder expression of that as well.
What's the credo? Or you don't want to share it?
Oh, no, no, no. I just don't know if it's okay for your audience, but yeah, the art of getting shit done.
Oh yeah, totally. No, 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 that's totally fine. I've had worse than that. Like, don't worry. I was
Oh,
saying I
well,
was saying it yesterday. So yeah, the
yeah,
art. No, because I was going
yeah.
to say there's a book around. There's also a book on this, isn't there? Like the art of. Um,
There's subtle art of not giving a fuck, and
yeah.
there's a lot of books around that sort of thing, which are all sort of about your emotional headspace and stuff. But actually, practically doing things, and it doesn't matter if you're an engineer, an accountant, whatever space you work in, this is a great bolt-on skill. So yeah, and that's it's kind of corny. It's not really my life calling, but I
No,
am
no, I get it.
passionate
It's your
about it.
purpose. It's your
Yeah,
purpose and your
yeah,
mission in life, right? And so
yeah.
tell me, you're the Center for Project Innovation. Are you working across all the various industries? Like, are you niched down? Like you called out leadership and saw a gap in leadership and the theory of leadership. And I could not agree more. It's when you get into, and I loved the term you use around practical science. Like,
Mm.
you need that, especially today when it comes to leadership. Like for me, I call it you need to be both visionary, but you also need to understand how to implement it. Like if you understand your vision and how are you going to implement it through, that for me is an aspect of project management. That's the way I've always been, kind of I guess trained, and that's how I've
Yeah.
become the leader I am today. But like specifically, what sort of businesses and organizations or leaders are you working with, and what are you seeing as the current biggest opportunity at the moment at this very point in time?
Two parts to the question. The
Yeah,
first part, sort of people I work with and
yeah.
stuff. A cool story I've told quite a few times. This was before COVID. I was in the US. I was on a military base, and I was teaching a bunch of tier one defense people. So Navy SEALs, Marine Raiders, Green Berets were all in the room there. All, barrel-chested freedom fighters at the height of the global war on terror and stuff. I was literally the only person in the
Wow,
room.
how cool.
Yeah, I was literally the only person who'd never killed someone. Like it was a fairly intimidating audience to walk into and stuff. And those guys just ate it up. Like, they were technical experts, the top of the top of the top of their field, the 0.001% sort of thing. Exceptionally good, shoot the eyes out of flies. They're, absolutely awesome at what they do. But and I thought, what am I going to teach these guys?
Yeah,
And it was project management. And one of the things I learned, through a number of engagements with these types of groups is they're voracious learners. They're always looking to improve their skills and improve their capability. And for these guys, project management was an eye opener. It was like, oh wow, they were exceptionally good problem solvers. We'll run up the hill shooting and figure it out because we're good enough to be able to do that. But to sort of sit back and think outside their own bubble and the broader stakeholder communities they engage with, and drawing risk and expertise and knowledge and the planning processes and the way we change things and stuff. They really ate it up. But I got on a plane from that group, flew back home to Tasmania, and we had another group running at the same time. And I thought I'd drop in and see how they're doing. It was a First Nations healing festival down on Bruny Island, which is an island
yeah.
off the
I
island of
haven't been, but
Tasmania.
yeah, apparently it's beautiful.
Beautiful, yeah. And this was a bunch of First Nations healers, Indigenous healers from all around the world. There were Native Americans, there were Indians, but a lot of Australian Indigenous people as well. And we were literally down there singing to bring the whales back to the community, to the thing where they used to travel through
How
this Doghouse
gorgeous.
Strait Passage. Yeah. And it was the same content. It was the same philosophy. We had a bunch of interns who were like putting together this, festival as part of the broader festival team we were taking through mentoring. And, the two different groups, two different sides of the world, two very different spaces. Like I absolutely did not mention to these guys who my last client had been. But, they're all getting the benefits of these same fundamental project management principles. Doing a project next year with the Saudi Health Department and
Yeah,
the
yeah.
hospital infrastructure and stuff over there. Working in India, we just signed a really big deal in India at the moment with a peak body for IT in their space. So it is a universal skill. It's how you apply it. And I guess the gap I saw in the market around this was a lot of project management. There's project management methods like
Yeah.
PMBOK and Prince2, and you can even think of Six Sigma or something as a method, PM2, those sort of things. But they're all very prescriptive. If
Yeah.
this happens, do that. If this happens, do that. Whereas I believe what makes a really good project manager or project leader is someone who's a creative and critical thinker, someone who
Couldn't
can,
agree more.
creatively come up and with others identify the solutions to different problems, and then critically think about what's the best way to actually solve a problem,
Yeah.
like, from that range of solutions. And you can't teach that as a process. You can't teach
No.
that as a step one, step two. So our approach to education is really, okay, what's the context you work in? What's the environment and space you work in? And let's show how these principles can actually be made to work for you. But not let's show you as in let's tell you. Let's help you figure this out yourself.
I love it. It's because
Yeah.
it's true collaboration, right? But it's
Yeah.
also not a cookie cutter approach in terms of because I was going to ask you that and you beat me to it in terms of sharing that. It sounds like you go in and you get under under the bonnet of the business or the organization that you're going to work with to then almost put forward, if you like, this is what we see could work or this is
Yeah.
what we see could help. And I hate
Well,
using
it's
the word
also,
help, but
yeah.
solve the problem or go on a solution finding journey together to get the best outcome and project management system, if you like, in place. Is that kind of what it is?
Absolutely. There's the very traditional consultancy model in the project management space, which is very much about, hey, we need a project manager. So project manager
Yeah.
parachutes in, descends from the cloud, says, all right, this is how it all will happen. And then they bugger off at the end. And, everyone just goes kind of what happened, sort of what we wanted, here we go. And it's a very almost paternalistic kind of model of consultancy. Ours is more educative in that we work with organizations because people deliver projects with or without our sort of support. Like they're figuring it out themselves. What we do is we sort of reveal the structure
Yeah.
that they've got and sort of add in a bunch of good practice. We don't teach best practice because best practice is unique to each individual organization. We
Yeah.
we give you a range of good practices to help you reveal your best practice until you turn around to us and say, you know what, we don't need you anymore. It's like,
I
great,
love
we've won.
that.
We've done the
Yeah.
job. Yeah.
It's very cool and it's very iterative, right? Because like I'd love your thoughts on this too, because the traditional project management model is you go from A, you go to B, and you get to B. And this is
Yeah.
like, ta-da, here it is. And it's like, oh shit, nothing happened. It all kind of didn't go the
Yeah.
way you wanted it to. Whereas
Yeah.
in this non-linear world, there is no such thing as A to B anymore. You might go from here up to here, up to here. So it's almost
Yeah.
like what's your thoughts on that? And then especially when it comes to creative and critical thinking, like you talked around.
Yeah, look, my favorite project management quote is from that great project management philosopher, Iron Mike Tyson, who said, everyone has a plan until they get punched in the face. And for me, obviously, the better you plan your project, the better process you follow, and even pre-planning, just understanding the business case. What's the rationale? Why are we doing this in the first place? Because the project's not an end in itself. A project's a means to an end. You want the outcomes that are realized when you've finished the project for it to be meaningful. But a big part, and again, historically, project management has been all about, yeah, we've got the plan, and if we dare deviate from the plan, then everything's gone wrong. So just no, 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 no. And it's like, well, and that's a phenomenon they call scope creep. The idea that this is your scope of work, all the
Yeah.
things you do, and if people keep adding and adding and adding to it, your project never works. But our approach to that is no, like no one's trying to change your project to make it worse. The challenge is in coming up with a system and a process to identify opportunity and identify the ways, cool ways to what actually is going to add value, what's going to distract, and making sure that you're properly resourced and that everyone's on the same page to achieve those goals. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. How important is experimentation to innovation in your mind? Like, innovation is such a big word, right? And especially now more than ever. How
Yeah.
important is experimentation without losing sight of actually what you're setting out to achieve, if that makes sense?
Well, you've nailed it there because if you're really clear on why you're doing it, what the outcomes you want to achieve, the project itself, what you're trying to do is through the project management process is just come up through your planning process, come up with the best way to achieve that. But a project plan is a wish. It's a bunch of estimates or assumptions about how we think the world's going to turn out. And when reality hits, we realize those assumptions may be flawed or the environment's changed or things like that. So what I think of as a project plan is it kind of gives you left and right limits within which you can experiment.
Yeah.
as long as you're still staying focused on that outcome or goal you're trying to achieve. Um, Now, your outcome and goal may actually evolve too, and that's okay. But you need to realign the project to make sure that you're heading in direction. YouTube, for example, was a dating site. It was a video dating site when it was first set up. And what they figured out was they found a cool algorithm to stream videos that no one else had kind of cracked, and they started going viral when people were uploading funny, stupid videos and stuff. And they went, oh, okay, well, our purpose has changed now. Let's move to this kind of thing. Um, so experimentation's good as long as you know what your endpoint is.
Mm.
And your endpoint may change, but having a process, you can go crazy with it and you can lose sight. And look, I've done it myself, taken too much on where it's like, oh, yeah. Actually, this was a former CIA guy told me this, but they talk quite openly in the agency about the good idea fairy. The good idea fairy comes in and, sprinkles their dust and everyone gets all giddy and excited and then they forget what they were doing in the first place, sort of thing. They're off with the next shiny object kind of thing. So harnessing and managing that, putting the poor little good idea fairy in a box. So you don't want to shut them away completely, but, harness those opportunities and good ideas in a critical way that can keep you moving forward. Yeah, that's what really positive
Yeah.
innovation looks like.
And I think it's the new world order of leadership as well, because, at times I've been kind of, well, judged is the wrong word, but I'm like, it's like, let other people do it. Like, there's a difference between delegating and being a control freak. And, like at times we can all get a
Yeah,
little bit like that, right? But
yep,
like as a leader, I always had to think through, back to that critical thinking. You can be as creative and visionary as you like.
yeah,
How does this actually work? And I think that is a real gap slash opportunity in leaders of today and leaders of the future. Like,
yeah,
you have to be over it and you have to be across it, if that makes sense. I used to draw this visual up and talk to a lot of people like that, because I think that is what is required at the end of the day to be able to, the art of getting things done, the art of leading, the art of having a team that is,
yeah.
doing it with you. But I think it's a really big opportunity in leadership right now at this very point in time, especially with AI and everything else that's come into play. What's your thoughts on that?
So many thoughts. Bringing AI into it, for example. Oh, the first one and the one that popped in my head a couple of times when we've been talking is we think of innovation as grand,
Yeah.
as this huge thing. But innovation, and this is what project management does as well. If you break it down, it's a small and it's a series of successive small
Mm,
things, ideally, that build on each
I love
other.
that. That's
And that's what
powerful.
leads you to success. Organizations will come to us and say, we want the gold standard, of project management. It's like, you can't have it, you shit. We're going to get you here, and then we're going to get you here, and we're
Yeah.
going to get you here. And we'll get there, but it's not, here's a new software, here's a methodology, you're
Yeah.
fixed for all time sort of thing. And I think too, you've got to meet people where they are
Yeah, I
in this
agree.
space. Best leader I ever had, Scott. Don't know where he is now. Actually, lost him. I don't think I ever told him this either. But
Not if you're listening.
yeah, yeah, exactly. He he gave me a safe space to fail. So he'd let me like figure it out myself, and we'd be clear on we'd set the objective, and he'd go, okay, go make that happen. Then I'd be checking in, and he'd be going, yeah, cool, and with hindsight, this was one particular project we were doing. I was quite young. And in hindsight, I realized that I was stuffing up, but I was learning from my own mistakes. But every time I went too far, like it was pushing the boundaries or going in places that would actually cause actual harm to the business, just pick me up and put me back here. All right, and here we go, sort of thing. And you got to help people figure it out themselves.
Yeah, I
Like
agree.
kids don't learn bikes like how to ride a bike by watching you ride a bike.
Mm.
And they're going to get bumps and bruises and stuff, and it's creating safe spaces for them to pick themselves up and learn, and eventually, yeah, they zoom right past you.
I love it. tell me about AI and how that is changing the game in terms of project management. And I guess for me also how critical, I feel like humans and the potential of humans and back to creative and creativity and critical thinking and all of that is more important than ever. And I still think it's more than important than ever when in things like, project management, for
Yeah.
example, because we're talking about AI, it's an efficiency tool. It can do this, it can do that. But like, I'd love your thoughts on that, and especially what you're seeing across the globe as well, given that your headquarters are in Washington, D.C., and, the clients that you have all around the world.
Yeah, look, AI is transformative. I use AI every day. But I use it to do the crap I don't like doing, in the sense. So it's a great time saver. It's very efficient at doing those routine tasks. I don't think anyone, very few people, except maybe for accountants. My dear old dad, an accountant once as well.
Yeah.
But they don't sign up for their profession because they love the paperwork. They like the challenges and stuff. And
Yeah.
AI is really good at the paperwork, and it can create incredible efficiencies for you. But at the end of the day, project management's a people skill. It's about herding the cats, getting them all pointing in the same direction, and harnessing their energy, but also their ideas. I describe a project, I liken a project manager often to a conductor of an orchestra. Now,
Yeah.
the conductor of an
Love it.
orchestra might be, an awesome violin player as well. But if the orchestra gets out of time, and the temptation, I've done this, sounds like you've done it as well, where you just go, oh, yeah, walk down, give me that bloody violin, I'll play
I'll
it
do it
for you.
myself. Yeah.
But then the whole orchestra goes to hell. You've got to remember your role and place in leading those larger teams. The problem with AI, and why, at least in the near term, I don't believe it will replace project managers at all, because it is that people skill. And two things with it. The first is that it averages everything. It takes all the data it has, and it
Mm.
gives the average response. What's the most likely
Yeah.
response? But that's the vanilla safe path, and that will lead to a degree of innovation, but not the breakthrough stuff, because it's the ideas at the edges, it's the ideas at the fringes that AI just smooths out to give you the average path. So creativity and the ability to be creative and the ability to think creatively is cool. In the project management context, AI is good at identifying risks, because it's looked at all these
Yeah.
projects around the world and stuff, and it'll say, hey, these are the likely risks you'll encounter. Great. You still need to talk to your stakeholders, though, because they're going to see things that it doesn't. But your project is going to be unique to your environment, and the people who are working on it, and the client you're working with, the sponsor, and everyone. So when it comes to prioritizing those risks and ranking them and rating them, that's something AI can't do, because it'll never know enough about your unique project in its place and time. So you need to get around and talk to stakeholders. The other big problem with AI is that it really wants to help. Like it's always very positive and friendly, and it wants to help.
It
And
yelled at me the other day though. Like
I
it
did
really
it.
it got quite aggressive. And I was like, whoa,
It
this is what's going on here. I was just
probably
sort of
started
like
it.
really
Yeah.
telling
Yeah.
me how it was. Listen here,
Yeah.
me.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
was like,
Well,
ah,
that's actually goes to the part of the problem too, because it mostly tries to please, and this is where hallucinations come from. It just makes stuff up to please you, but it delivers those hallucinations with all the confidence of a middle-aged white man. So it's certain in
oh,
its
it was certain,
wrongness.
all right. I was like,
Yeah, yeah,
calm your
yeah. You're
farm,
actually not.
like, yeah.
You're actually not. So you know, um, as long as people, as long as we're managing other people, and we absolutely should be, because that's where our ideas and our creativity comes from. AI will never be able to spot the outlier and go, oh, you know what? For these reasons, in this context, this is actually the best solution, unless you feed it with a whole heap more data than it's sitting on at the moment. So until we get our microchips put in the bottom of our necks,
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, we've got a long way to go, don't we? I want
yeah,
to switch it up. I've got a few questions,
mm,
and then I'll let you get back to your day. But in
yeah,
terms of this is about being an entrepreneur,
mm,
building a business, having your own business. You specialize in project management, right? But quite often and I'd love your thoughts on this because quite often we're so consumed and productive with what we're doing with our clients, our own business and our own systems and our own project management, if you like, can fall by the wayside.
yeah.
How do you like ensure, like, I mean, obviously you've got a team around you, but from a startup perspective, are you like what you see on the outside is what you see on the inside? Like, have you always applied the same project management I'll use methodology if
Yeah,
you
yeah,
like
yeah.
to your own business. Like how do you juggle it all?
Oh, look, it's the classic thing, you don't want to see how the sausage is made. Like, it's funny. I was teaching project management long before I actually started truly practicing it myself. And because, my role in the business, my place in the business that I've sort of found now is to come up with the cool ideas and the new ways of doing things. But I've got a leadership, an all-female leadership team actually
Oh,
who
very
just
cool.
project manage the crap out of me and put it back in my face and aren't afraid to say, Paul, you're off with a good idea, fairy. Come back over here. The challenge for me in growing and developing my own business is I have sometimes just overextended and not only overextended, but not known when to pull back, not knowing when to cut losses and go, you know what? We're throwing good money after bad now in the hope of some
Yeah.
fantastical result. So the biggest challenge for me is being able to step back. And because I know that's not something that I'm actually good at, I've surrounded myself with people who are good at that
Yeah, that's
and
smart.
hold me accountable.
Yeah.
So yeah.
You are the true visionary of the business in terms of, all the big thinking, the big ideas. And it's like, yeah, I love that. I love that. It's like, come back here, hang on, we're
Yeah.
over here, but we need you to start here. It used to happen to me with
Exactly.
my leadership team in the business. And we're like, B,
Yeah.
we love it. So I'd be like, here we are. I've already seen how this is going to work. Now I'm over here. And they'd be like,
Yeah.
whoa. And I'd just be like, oh, yeah, like like as a
Yeah.
leader or as a business owner, it is really about taking people on the journey, but it's also then about how do you ensure that you, as a visionary, how do you ensure then you also have in 15 years in business, how have you ensured that you've kept yourself able to be that creative, have that critical thinking, as well as the first principles thinking? How do you ensure that you keep those juices flowing? How do you ensure that you get into those flow states where you can come up? Because being 15 years in business, it's not
Yeah.
as it's that's a long time. That's a great innings. And it sounds like you've got another however many to go.
Yep.
You've got to keep fresh.
It's interesting because yeah, I probably do see myself as within the next 10 years, like what does the business look like without me? Whether I sell that off or whether I take chairman of the board type role in it, and that'd probably be the way I prefer to do it and stuff. So I am consciously thinking about what what where am I a key dependency versus and how do I transfer that and pass that off to others. The way I keep my sort of vision and motivation and inspiration alive is just by talking to people, talking to as many people as possible. And honestly, I'm getting as much out of this these sort of conversations as I deliver. And when I don't get to do it nearly enough these days,
Yeah.
obviously, but yeah, when I actually do get to be on the floor and delivering a workshop or a conference presentation or something like that, it's the feedback and talking to others. I feed off other people's energy,
Yeah.
and that sustains me. But yeah, at some point too, yeah, I would like to hang up my hat and actually go to a place and visit it and see it and hang out rather than just go from hotel to hotel and air conditioned to air conditioned sort of conference center sort of thing. Or, yeah. So yeah, I still feel energized. I still feel motivated, and I'm drawing that energy from not only the people I meet out in the real world, but from my team. They're an awesome bunch of people, incredible bunch of people. Like,
How big's your team?
there's probably about 15 in the core.
Yeah, cool.
Who, yeah, and of them, there's probably half a dozen or so who I have the most interaction with, and then we have a lot of contractors and stuff,
Yeah.
delivering stuff in different places. But yeah, like I draw my, people. I actually correct them when people say, "Oh, I work for Paul" or whatever. No, you work with Paul. We work with
Yeah,
each
I
other.
love
You
that.
don't work for me. Yeah, yeah. Kind of makes me feel like guilty, like some sort of
Yeah,
yeah.
I love it. I love it. And I think because we've got so many generations in business now, I was speaking to someone the other day on the pod and just that having that diverse range of different generations within your business. And I'd be intrigued to understand
Mm.
if you have different, because I'm a millennial and, like I've got a little, like a very young, little Gen Zer, and he's teaching me stuff, and I'm just like, and I'm teaching him stuff, and I think that's a sort of like, it's the it's the gift of giving, right? In terms of what your team gives back to you and what you give them, and it's just this. I just think it's a really cool, like when you talk around, I guess, innovation, etc. Having the different generations and the ability to problem solve together, especially in what you're doing and the new ideas. Anything's possible, like, anything's possible in terms of getting things done if you work together as a team.
I think it's something we really miss in the conversations around diversity. Like we talk about gender diversity, we talk about ethnic diversity and stuff like that. Yeah, but when we talk about, well-governed companies and businesses and organizations and stuff, I think we really miss age diversity. I think
Yeah,
that there's young people,
agree.
and like I say, I feed off the energy of others. It's young people who have the most ideas and energy. And I say to people when they join us, like these next 3 months, you have to like be super critical of everything we do, because you've got fresh eyes. After three
Yeah,
months of joining us, you're going to be institutionalized like the rest of us and drinking the Kool-Aid. You'll become snowblind to these opportunities
yeah,
as so young people, especially bringing them in. Yeah, you've got to harness that energy and you've got to encourage them. If people always, I hear managers say, I've got an open door policy, but if every time I walk through that open door I get told no, then I'm going to stop showing up.
totally.
And one of the things I say to people in this sort of challenging stage, we talk about forming, storming,
Oh
norming,
yeah, yeah,
etc.
yeah,
I love storming. Storming's a great opportunity because if I can't justify what we're doing, or if you see a better way and that stacks up, and that outweighs my justification for doing things. Let's do it. Why aren't we doing it?
yeah. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're so right about the age diversity piece. It's a really big one.
Mhm.
Okay, so two final questions for you,
Oh,
Paul. Well, maybe it's one, but maybe it's two. What what does project management and the art of getting things done look like to you? This is a bit of a wild one
yeah.
in 5 years' time.
I think if there's a risk going forward 5 years' time, and that we're going to over rely on AI. That we're going to depend on AI to do our problem because it'll come up with safe solutions for how we do things. And one of the things I see is because AI can answer our questions, we're less likely to spend the necessary time getting around and talking to engaging our stakeholders and stuff. So I think the real challenge in the project management space is to really understand and clearly define, again, in the context of your own projects and environment, where AI adds value and where it robs you. One of
Of
the
course.
things I've done in the past is, I'll sit there and I'll get AI to help me write an email, and then I'll sit there and I'll try and train AI, and I'll spend 20 minutes trying to train it to get the perfect email when I could have taken its 80% solution and then just fixed it myself.
Yeah, yeah, I
um,
agree.
or I could have, gone out and got better feedback and stuff, from others. So I think the fundamental principles are always going to, be relevant. And AI understands those principles. They can spit back the
Yeah,
theory really easy. Give it any sort of project management exam or test, it'll pass the test. It'll do really, really well, better than a lot of humans. But can it actually engage? Can it actually talk to people? When I talk to people in creative industries, they've got the people thing down pat. They're terrible at the process. So, we spend a lot of time teaching them process and stuff. When I talk to, engineers and people like that, they're really good at process, not so good at people. So, and we really work on the people stuff. I think the people stuff will be the most valuable going
yeah, I
forward.
agree.
And I can teach you in an hour, teach you in a day how to prepare a Gantt chart, but you're going to spend your whole career figuring out people. And if project management can introduce you to some hacks and lessons learned, experiences, and cool ways to sort of solve delegation, for example, conflict, those sort of things, and how to get the best value out of the people around you, then it will always be valuable. And the people who have those skills and are willing to challenge themselves and others with them, they're going to be the ones who have the most success. Mm-hmm.
It's an exciting time to be in the world, isn't it? We're in this
It
revolution
is.
and, like it's a big revolution and it'll be, I
Yeah.
never do. I think the potential of humans is going to be accelerated as well as,
Oh,
the
absolutely.
likes of tech and AI. So I love that. Paul, I generally try and give, I'm just gonna throw it out to you.
Yeah.
What would be one, I guess, what would be one piece of advice you would like to give? And it's over to you in the spirit of being
Yeah.
creative. What would be one piece of advice you'd like to give to the audience on
Um,
anything?
yeah, you talk about your young fella raising a kid and stuff. And one of the things I will want, like my kids are young adults, daughters at uni and stuff. The one thing I always wanted to be as a parent was try and teach them common sense. And I actually spent a fair bit of time thinking and talking to people, what the hell is common sense? And what do we mean by that? And I really came up with my own definition of it, sort of thing. But it really is the ability to foresee the consequences of your actions.
Mm.
When someone doesn't foresee the consequences of their actions and they do something dumb that puts them in a bad place, and everyone else could see that that was going to happen, that's what we go, oh, where's your common sense? Why didn't you see? That should have been obvious. That's what common sense is. So I think in terms of one piece of advice to give, sort of a very general piece of advice, is train yourself to stop and think of the consequences of your actions and your decisions and stuff. And that is a learned skill. You get better. That's a muscle that you train. And you get faster at it and you get better at it. And yeah, that's the sort of one muscle, if you like, because I don't have any of my own. I'm working.
I love it, Paul. How do we find out more about your business? How do we find out more about you?
Yep, project.info. That's the email address. Oh, sorry, that's the URL for the website. That's where all the certifications, training. Look, on there too. We do a lot of work in the developing world. So we have a big scholarship program we do in Africa for, we did $1 million in scholarships there in the last 12
Amazing.
months. And we've got all our project management knowledge, the entire body of knowledge there. It's there for free. We
Amazing.
charge people for the certification because that's a
Yeah,
process and everything, but the knowledge is just there, open source and free. Anyone who wants to learn more about an aspect of or all of project management,
off you
fill
go.
your boots.
Amazing.
And if you want, more direct support or you want to certify and be sort of internationally recognized and stuff, then the pathways are there for you to follow a more personal
Amazing.
path.
Paul,
Yeah,
what a gift. Thank you so much. I've really enjoyed talking to you. And again, the Northern Light really calmed me, like
that's
just in terms
terrific.
of, it's been a very calming but inspiring and innovative conversation. And thank you for your time. And I love the way you are, continuing to shape and reshape, business leadership, but also your own life as well. And
Yeah,
I guess that's what, the formless methodology and my business is all about as well, because we are
mm,
constantly evolving, aren't we? We're
yeah,
all
yeah.
reshaping and reshaping. So thank you so much. I'm gonna let you get back to your day and
Thank you so much,
have a
B.
good
I've really enjoyed the chat.
one. No, thank you. Take care.
You
Thanks.
too. Cheers.